Hello and welcome to this episode of the Rich Revolutionary Podcast. I'm Chenisse, your host, and this is part two of a four-part solo cast saga breaking down the integration of your dark feminine. We're getting into the gifts of the emotions that we've been taught to suppress. And today we are unpacking the gift of rage, which is passion. Passion is the most attractive quality, along with kindness, that personally I look for in people, whether that be clients, partners, lovers, collaborators, whatever. And when someone is passionate about something, their whole life takes shape around that. And we only get to really tune into that when we are able to capacitate our rage. This is a flavor of too muchness that is far too prevalent for women specifically. And in the story that I'm about to tell you, the shift from rage to passion, we're going to reveal how we get to actually leverage our feminine rage that has been exiled and outcast and persecuted for millennia into magnetic leadership that actually attracts our people from the fiery, burning desire of passion. Are you ready for this? When we unblend any of our emotions, be that rage, like we're going to talk about here, fear, like we talked about in the last episode, go check that one out after this if you haven't already, shame or grief, which is up next, we are deconditioning and unsuppressing our expression and feeling pathways. This work is the most important thing that we can tend to. Again, I'm going to keep repeating myself, especially as women. Historical context, if you don't already know, you're about to find out. Feminine rage used to be labeled as hysteria in women who were literally being raped and abused. And they ended up being sedated and locked up for this big emotional expression because there's one thing that the overculture loves to do, it is suppress the feminine power of emotional expression, right? That is the rawest form of our primal life force energy. This is particularly prevalent to me because I have been sedated and locked up for being in my passionate expression. That's a story for another time. Today, we are getting into rage against the system, which does go with that story, but we're going to bring it into a more relatable place, the grocery store. You're like, rage in the grocery store? What does that have to do together? But you might already be onto where this is going. So, before we get into that, I want to invite you to the spotlight session. The next one is happening on Wednesday, the May 20th, which I probably won't have this out yet by then. So keep an eye out for the next one. I believe it's going to be the 17th of June. You can always find the details for that linked in the show notes or my bio on any social media platform. There, I have created a sacred theater for you to be seen in your full range expression in an environment where we are going to be beaming you with unconditional love and celebrating you in your expression, regardless of what that looks like. The importance is that you are fully inhabiting the shape that that emotion wants to express, that that character is holding, that that circumstance of your life has created a pattern around so that you can be in your integrated, authentic power. Okay? And that's what we're doing there. May 20th was Fear to Desire, goes with the last episode. So I hadn't planned this yet, but now the flow is coming through. I'm a channel. I figure out what the details are later. The next one is most likely going to be Rage to Passion. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Oh yeah, I'm very excited. Keep an eye out for the details on that. So today, let me paint the scene for you. I just got back from living in Costa Rica. Okay. I'm in Canada. I've moved to BC. And I'm going to the grocery store. Where I lived at that time, I think it was Loblaws, was like a 5-minute walk from my home. Okay. I go in there, like wanting to get fruits, veggies, like probably some rice, probably some plant milk, probably some meat of some form, and walk in my little reusable bag, get absolutely motherfucking insulted by the horrendous fluorescent overhead lights, right? The buzz of like brain scrambling frequency interference music, frantic families trying to do the same thing, right? With disorganized, crowded aisles. Everything is shitty as fuck and expensive as fuck, especially compared to the fresh quality food that I would get on the side of the road, barefoot, biking with my little basket to the farmer that grew it and sold it themselves, freshly picked every day, motherfucker. The North American food system pisses me the fuck off, okay? If you want to see rage against the system, this is a topic that is getting me going, okay? I'm back in Canada right now, so this is very alive for me. At that point, I didn't have as much capacity in my nervous system to be able to unblend like this is intentional, like the system is created this way to keep people sick and broke and disempowered and poisoned and unconscious. Okay. Have you ever thought about the FDA, the Food and Drug Association? Why do the people that legislate and organize the food system also legislate and organize the drug system? It's right before your eyes when you have the eyes to see it, right? But we don't have the eyes to see it when we're bogged down by all of the other aspects of this fucked up system and structure of patriarchy and capitalism, okay? That rage alone, without the capacity, without the sovereignty, without the integrated, authentic power to take action and build a different world, will literally destroy you. Okay? this energy needs a place to move, okay? And in building that capacity to be with it and saying, well, if not this, then what? Over and over and over and over again, I have channeled the full vision of rebuilding New Earth villages. Okay? As a lot of you may have heard, if you've been around here for a while, the big dream, I call it the farm, because an integral part of the project, of the vision, is the food forest. I'd say that is like the main thing. Because when we have food sovereignty, we no longer need to be reliant on a food system that is poisoned to keep our consciousness at a level of sedation. So that whole like sedating and locking up women for their rage, for their hysteria, has not disappeared into a thing of the past. It has just taken on a different face, okay? And it takes on the face of every part of this system, right? Like we're locked up in houses, we're locked up in offices, we're locked up inside of social systems and structures that are slowly poisoning us. And if you live in a metropolitan city, right? If you do not go out of your way to learn the basic human skills of growing your own food and have accessibility to harvestable land and have a relationship with that land of knowing how to properly tend to the soil and tend to growing food, then you have no choice. The perception of no choice is enraging until that rage has no purpose, right? If you're constantly raging, but there's nowhere for it to go, eventually your rage just gets suppressed and you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep paying the bills. You got to keep feeding the children. You got to keep feeding yourself, right? These are basic needs, non-negotiable. And yet, there is choice. There is an option to create a sustainable regenerative food system. And not the one that the government of Canada is advertising on any, like, I've been watching a little bit of Prime with my family while I'm here. Like the government in Canada is basically like, we'll give you money and to pay all of your bills and we'll give you good food. And they're doing all of this like campaigning along with the census of like farmers growing food, but it's like monocrops, it's depleted soil, it's being sprayed, it's being boosted, it's being genetically modified, it's being like pumped with pesticides, it's being devoid of nutrient, and there is no relationship between the food growing in the ground and the people consuming it, okay? Shout out my partner Miguel, Conscious Cuisine. This is his jam, reconnecting people with themselves and with the earth through food, okay? I'm scheming to get him on an episode of the podcast soon. I've got a little like discombobulated circular storytelling, as we like to root into around here with this. But I'm sure you can feel my passion. This is what integrated rage looks like. It's using that emotion of rage as fuel for your passion to take action, to get strategic, to make a plan that has architecture and infrastructure and substance and resources, right? To bring it from a vision into grounded reality where it is tangible, you can touch it with your hands, and other people are bringing it to life with you. Okay. And most recent update on the farm project, on the New Earth villages, on the eco-residential retreat centers and agrihoods is that one has reached out to my partner with a farm to table food project to collaborate in just outside of Puerto in Oaxaca, where we're living while I've been in Canada. Okay. I go into this a little bit deeper in my episode that's coming up with Hannah Elsie. I'm not sure when that one will be out, but the iconic life architect. And I'm just so excited. So that is going to be my primary focus coming soon. But let's reel it back in, okay? I want you to recognize where you are in a state of cognitive dissonance. This is a psychological term that means you have two conflicting beliefs, right? We have different parts, we're multiple. That's normal, okay? But cognitive dissonance happens when we have a conscious belief and an unconscious belief, and they're overriding each other, okay? Conscious belief, I want to be connected to the earth and eat healthy food. Unconscious belief, I have to go to the grocery store to get food, okay? Like that is in the collective culture. We know, most of us know at this point that our food is being poisoned, the soil is being poisoned, the water system is being poisoned, okay? But I was talking about this with my mom recently, and she's like, well, you gotta die some way. Like, no, I'm gonna go out swinging, and I'm gonna go out swinging in an organized way that is going to leave behind a better social cultural environment for the next generation, okay? And exactly what my mom said of like, oh, gotta die some way. This is what happens when we're in a state of cognitive dissonance and we don't either change our action or change our belief over time. It becomes learned helplessness. There's an experiment with like a frog, and if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump out and save itself. But if you put a frog in room temperature water and you slowly increase the temperature, it will die. Okay. That's just noticeable difference, but that's also going on collectively. That slipped through, but think of the pandemic, the COVID stuff with like just the little bit of difference, and then we had a big break of like things are a new normal, and now everything is, popping off. I don't want to give that too much attention because that's not affecting my reality. I'm claiming that. Okay, until it does, and I have to deal with it. So the other experiment is that if you are shocking a rat, okay, and the cage is closed, and then eventually you open the cage, but you're like continuing the shock, they won't try to escape because they've been so worn down and learned to be helpless in this environment, okay? This is what North America is doing to people, and I don't want to pedestal other countries over North America, but the thing that I cannot deny is that the grip of conditioning on the mainstream overculture is much denser, is much more like illusory than in other places of the world that I've seen. In my experience as a white privileged woman, okay, I understand who I am and who I'm talking to in this. And I think that as a white privileged woman, it is my responsibility to use the resources and the knowledge and the access and the privilege and the networks that I have to create this better future for everyone and structure it in a way that it actually is for everyone, and it isn't just this like elitist utopian world that doesn't create a genuine pathway of relationship and reconciliation with the original stewards of the land. Okay. So we know what cognitive dissonance is, we know what learned helplessness is, and we recognize that that is the normalized state of being in the overculture very, very prominently in North America in the way that I'm explaining. I'd say in other places it takes on a different form in the sense of like we can't leave, but differently, right? Okay, but bringing it back to center, the audience of this is more likely to be people who do have resources and who are either North American or European, okay? So shout out if you're not, though. Like, DM me. I love to meet new people that are listeners and hear your perspectives, your insights, your breakthroughs, your triggers, and make this a reciprocal conversation. So, feminine rage literally builds new worlds, okay? The more women are tapped in, tuned in, turned on to their sacred rage, the more we come together in these networks and co-create and collaborate on building structured architecture with infrastructure of these New Earth villages, the more we tap into our fire, the more we let it fuel our desires that have been seeded in our heart womb. We each have a unique flavor of, I like to say, your role in the revolution. So we're rich revolutionaries over here. That is what's up. The more that moves from intangible to tangible. And that's the whole purpose of us being here, of being entrepreneurs, of having this vehicle for our soul mission, right? If you're around here, that's what's up. On the flip side, when rage is suppressed, it festers into collapse, it festers into resentment and jealousy, right? The unalchemized polarity of desire is jealousy. So check yourself. If you're feeling jealous, don't make yourself wrong for it. If you're feeling fucking rageful, don't make yourself wrong for it. Allow yourself to fully feel it and receive the gift of this emotion. You get to flip the script on your sacred rage. And your aggression is essential for building the new earth. So let it move you. Let it direct you to creating your wildest visions. And ask yourself, if not this, then what? Over and over and over. Your imagination and creativity is limitless, okay? And it is our responsibility to anchor into deeper and deeper levels of embodiment with that. Talking about it in this podcast is great. We love to share the message. And if we are not out in the world actually taking actions in communities and building these spaces, then it doesn't really hold any substance, right? Feel it, see it, hear it, write it down, speak it out loud, all you can, right? The more we repeat it, the more we anchor it, the more people share the vision, the more we get together, the more we get organized, the more we take action, the faster it manifests into form. The key here, the absolute key that I want you to walk away with is to have fierce internal and external boundaries, okay? You're not here to be burnt up by your rage or your passion, and you're not here to be an absolute asshole to people because you're projecting your rage onto other people or projecting your timeline or projecting your worldview. Remember at the beginning I said like passion and kindness? It's both and. It's a dance with the dynamic balance between expression and containment. Okay? If you want to practice that dance, you want to integrate this at a deeper level, come into the embodiment, the beingness of exuding this rage to passion gift. Once again, I invite you to join these spotlight sessions. We are holding them as open calls monthly. The next one is going to be on June 17th, where we're going to be anchoring exactly this shift from rage to passion. So basically, that means I'm going to hold space for you to absolutely lose your shit. And then find the shit that makes you different, unique, and is literally the textural, detailed, specific flavor of your mission and message, literally why you're on Earth. And you probably already know that. And it gets to be a refinement, a reignition, a we're sitting down at the altar and tending to the flame, we're stoking the fire. Like I can give you any metaphor you want. Come to the spotlight session. Let's move it through the body and be witnessed in this, right? You never know who you're going to meet there either, right? Somebody raging with you might be your next collaborator, might be your next client, might be a referral partner, might be a podcast guest. You might lead a retreat together. Who knows? Anything can happen when we are playing in the field of limitless possibility, magic, and miracles. Okay. I'm feeling lit up. I'm feeling transformed. And this is why I love doing these podcasts. The next one we're going to dive into is the gift of grief, which I almost switched it to being today's episode because I be grieving this past weekend. I cried my little eyes out and I woke up I was like in this insatiable sadness. And sadness used to be my baseline. Okay. I've since shifted it to joy and bliss and excitement and passion and ecstatic overflow and all of these things. And it's a process, right? It's that dance. We're still dipping down to the sadness and alchemizing it into more love. That is the next episode, grief to love. And I'm going to ground that in my love story with my partner. You may have already heard this if you've been around here for a while. This is the story of how we met in a sweat lodge ceremony. Next day, I go to the river. I am breaking down, crying my eyes out, writing poetry, praying to the earth, like, I want more love in my life. I'm ready for it. Let's go. And little did I know, I had met the love of my life the day prior. We just had not yet connected because I had a few more layers to sift through to alchemize my grief into love and this openness to allowing it, accepting it, calibrating to it's not perfect, right? You're gonna hear the details of what happened when we first met, how it all went down in the next episode. I'll see you there.